I want to tell you something that happened to me when I was 27. I was sitting at a birthday dinner for a coworker. 10 people around the table, everyone ordering appetizers, cocktails, entrees they were genuinely excited about. I ordered water, a $16 pasta, and watched the table rack up a $340 bill that was going to be split 10 ways. The guy across from me had just bought a new car. The woman next to me was talking about the Airbnb she and her friends had rented for a weekend trip. My manager was showing pictures of the renovation he was doing on his kitchen. I was the quietest person at that table, and I had more invested than all of them combined. Not because I earned more, we were all in roughly the same salary range. Not because I was smarter or luckier or had family money. Because I had applied 5 rules consistently for 4 years, while everyone around me was doing the opposite without knowing it. These are those 5 rules. Not theories, not things I read in a book and passed along, things I lived, numbers I ran on my own life, behaviors I built and kept. Every single one of them is something you can start this week. Let me show you what they look like and what they actually cost you when you don't have them. Rule 1. Never let a raise disappear. The first rule came to me the hard way. I got my first real raise at 25, 7%. My salary went from $58,000 to $62,060. That was $4,060 more per year, $338 more per month hitting my account. I remember thinking, okay, now I can breathe a little. I upgraded my apartment. I started getting better groceries. I went out more on weekends. By month 4, I genuinely could not tell you where the raise had gone. It was just gone, absorbed into a slightly more expensive version of my life. I looked at my investment account. It was exactly where it had been before the raise. That moment was the first time I actually understood the trap. The income went up. My life got more expensive. The gap between what I earned and what I invested stayed exactly the same. So I made a rule. 80% of every raise goes to investments before my lifestyle adjusts, not after, before. The moment a raise arrives, before I change my budget, before I upgrade anything, before I let myself get used to the new number, 80% goes directly to my investment accounts automatically. I called it the raise rule. The second raise I got, 6%, I applied it immediately. $278 more per month. $222 went straight to my Roth IRA. $56 went to lifestyle. I genuinely barely noticed the $56. I absolutely noticed the $222 building. Here is what that $222 per month looks like over 30 years at 10% average annual returns. $502,000. Not from the whole raise, from 80% of one raise on a $58,000 salary. I have now applied this rule to every raise I have received for the last several years. The compounding effect across multiple raises is one of the most significant wealth differentials I have ever seen in my own numbers. And it did not require a bigger salary. It did not require picking better stocks. It did not require anything except applying one rule at one specific moment, the moment the raise arrives. Before you upgrade, before you adjust, before you feel the money. 80%, first, automatically. The trap this rule prevents is lifestyle inflation, the thing that consumed Marcus Webb's $130,000 over 20 years and left him $1,257,000 short of his own retirement needs. The wealth the raise rule builds, everything. Rule 2. Always know the 30-year cost. This rule changed how I see money permanently. I was 26 years old when I was seriously considering upgrading my car. I had been driving a used Honda I bought for $9,500. It ran fine. It was reliable. It was also 9 years old with 130,000 miles on it, and I was starting to feel embarrassed about it. I found a $38,000 crossover I liked. I test drove it. I sat in the parking lot of the dealership and ran the financing terms on my phone. $618 a month over 72 months. $618. On my salary, that was manageable. That is exactly how they want you to think about it. So I ran a different calculation. My current car cost me roughly $120 a month in insurance and maintenance. The new car would cost me approximately $618 in payment plus $195 in insurance. $813 total. Monthly gap, approximately $693. I put $693 per month into a compound interest calculator. 30 years, 10% annual returns. $1,567,000. I sat in that parking lot and looked at that number for a long time. The car was not $38,000. The car was $1,567,000. That is the only number that actually represents what you are buying when you choose a more expensive option over a reasonable alternative. Not the sticker price, not the monthly payment, the 30-year compounding cost of the gap. I drove home in my Honda. I have used this calculation on every significant financial decision I have made since. The formula is simple. Calculate the monthly difference between what you are about to spend and what a genuinely reasonable alternative would cost. Invest that gap for 30 years at 10%. Look at the result, then decide if what you are buying is worth that number. The decision might still be yes. A new car might be worth $1,500 to you if the reliability matters, if the utility matters, if the daily experience genuinely changes your quality of life. That is a legitimate trade-off. But it has to be a real decision, made with the real number, not a default made with a monthly payment that always looks manageable. The monthly number is the number the salesperson knows. The 30-year number is the number that matters. Know it before you sign. Rule 3. Capture every dollar of free money. I am going to tell you the most embarrassing financial mistake I made in my first year of working. I was 23. My employer offered a 401k match, 50% of contributions up to 6% of my salary. My salary was $54,000. I was contributing 3%. Not because I did not know the match existed, I did. Not because I could not afford to contribute more, I could. Because I had not run the math on what I was leaving behind. When I finally sat down and did it, 4 months into my job, I calculated that I had already left $540 in employer match money uncollected. My employer was handing me free money, and I was declining it. I changed my contribution to 6% that same day. I have never changed it back down. Here's the math at 6% on a $54,000 salary. My contribution, $3,240 per year, $270 per month. Employer match at 50%, $1,620 per year, $135 per month in free money. That $1,620 per year in free money invested for 35 years at 10% returns is approximately $481,000. $481,000 from checking a box and typing a higher percentage into a form. No investment strategy on earth gives you a guaranteed 50% return before the market opens. Not index funds, not real estate, not crypto, not anything. The employer match is the only guaranteed return in investing, and approximately 25% of Americans with access to it are not capturing it fully. Before you think about a Roth IRA, capture the full match. Before you open a brokerage account, capture the full match. Before you think about any other investment priority, capture the full match. It is not optional. It is not a suggestion. It is the highest guaranteed return available to most employed Americans. Log into your 401k portal this week. Find out what your employer matches. Find out what percentage you need to contribute to capture every dollar of it. Make sure you are contributing at least that much. That is the entire rule. Rule 4. Build the gap before you build the lifestyle. In my late 20s, I watched almost everyone I knew make the same mistake. They got better jobs, their salaries went from $55,000 to $75,000 to $90,000. And every time income rose, lifestyle rose with it. Instantly, completely, almost automatically. Better apartments, nicer cars, more restaurants, longer vacations. By the time they hit $90,000, they were spending $90,000. The gap between income and investing had not moved. It was the same size it was at $55,000, just more expensive. I made a decision around 28 that felt uncomfortable at the time. Every time my income went up, I was going to build the investment rate first before I let the lifestyle follow. Here's what I mean. When my salary hit $80,000, I calculated 20% of gross income, $16,000 a year, $1,333 a month going to investments. Before I upgraded my apartment, before I upgraded my car, before I expanded my entertainment budget, I got the investment rate to $1,333 a month and automated it completely. Only after that was locked in and running automatically did I allow the lifestyle to adjust. The lifestyle adjustment came from income growth, not from the investment budget. Most people do this in reverse. They upgrade the lifestyle the moment income rises. Then they try to invest whatever is left over. Whatever is left over is almost always close to zero because lifestyle expands to consume every dollar that is available to it. This is not a character flaw. It is not a discipline problem. It is how human psychology works in a society designed to sell you things at every income level. The only way to beat it is to build the gap before the lifestyle can absorb it. Set the investment rate first, automate it, make it invisible, then spend the rest freely. This is what I did, and the result was that by 30, I had a growing investment account and a lifestyle I genuinely enjoyed, not because I was depriving myself, but because I had sequenced it correctly. Financial freedom is not the absence of spending. It is the presence of a gap large enough to fund a future. Build the gap first. The lifestyle can wait 3 months. Your compound curve cannot. Rule 5. The decade that matters most is this one. This is the rule I wish I had understood at 22 instead of 26. When I was 22, I thought retirement was something you worried about in your 40s. I thought investing $200 a month at 22 was not worth it because it was not a serious enough amount. I thought I had time. I started contributing meaningfully at 24, not 22. Those 2 years cost me more than I am comfortable admitting. Here is the math. $1 invested at 22 at 10% average annual returns is worth $45.26 at age 65. That same dollar invested at 24 is worth $37.40 at 65. The 2-year delay on $1 costs $7.86. Multiply that by every dollar I would have invested in those 2 years. If I had invested $750 a month from 22 instead of 24, the 2 years of missing contributions alone would have compounded to approximately $330,000 less at retirement. Not because of what I invested, because of when. I was 24 when I finally understood compound interest the way it actually works. Not in the textbook sense, in the personal sense. The same dollar invested at 25 is worth 17 times more at 65 than the same dollar invested at 45. Not 17% more, 17 times more. Every year of delay does not cost you 1 year of growth. It costs you the compounding that would have happened across the entire remaining timeline. When I ran those numbers on my own situation, something changed. Not the intention to invest. I had always intended to invest. The urgency. I stopped waiting for the right moment. I stopped waiting to understand more. I stopped waiting until I had more to invest. I invested what I had, when I had it, into the simplest available vehicle, a low-cost total market index fund, and I let compound interest do the work I could not. This is the rule I ask everyone to take most seriously. Not because it requires the most discipline, because it is the only one that cannot be undone later. You can capture the employer match next month. You can learn to calculate the 30-year cost tomorrow. You can build the gap on your next raise. You cannot go back to 22. You cannot reclaim the compounding years you missed. The decade you are in right now is the most valuable investing decade you will ever have. Not the next one, not after the debt is gone, not when the salary gets better. This one. I have now been applying these 5 rules consistently for several years. They did not make me an overnight success. They did not make me a millionaire by 30. What they did was change the trajectory, because trajectory is everything when compound interest is involved. Rule 1 stopped my raises from disappearing into a more expensive version of my life. Rule 2 made every major financial decision conscious instead of default. Rule 3 captured the only guaranteed return available to me as an employed person. Rule 4 built the gap before the lifestyle could consume it. Rule 5 created urgency around the one resource I cannot recover: time. Together, these 5 rules answer the question that most financial advice never quite reaches. Not what should I invest in, not how do I spend less, not should I buy or rent or lease. How do I make sure that the income I earn actually builds the future I say I want? The answer in all 5 rules is the same. Build the gap, protect the gap, invest the gap. Start now. That is the whole thing. Every rule is a different way of doing those 4 things. I am not telling you these rules made my life smaller. They did not. I have traveled, I have eaten at good restaurants, I have bought things I genuinely wanted. The difference between my financial life and the average person my age is not that I deprived myself. The difference is that I knew the 30-year cost of every default before I chose it, that I captured the free money before anything else, that I built the gap before the lifestyle could close it, that I never let a raise disappear without directing most of it somewhere permanent, that I started early enough for the compounding curve to do work I could never do manually. The average retirement savings for Americans in their 20s is $42,520, according to Empower data. I was past that number before most of my peers had finished paying off their first credit card. Not because of income, because of 5 rules applied consistently at the right moments. If this video gave you something specific enough to use on Monday, not just something to nod at and forget, please hit like before you go. It genuinely helps this content reach more people. Subscribe to Real Math Money for weekly videos that break down financial topics completely, honestly, with real math and no agenda. And drop a comment below. Which of these 5 rules is the one you need most right now? Because knowing which rule applies to your specific situation is the beginning of all of it. And that is the only version of this question that actually matters. See you in the next one.